entrepreneurs, and professionals of Tampa Bay. Welcome to your hour for getting the information, the tools, and the connections for elevating your business. Welcome to Getting the Edge with Kelly Wilson. And here's your host, Kelly Wilson.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Kelly Wilson, founder and CEO of Edge Business Magazine. Well, Edge, we are so much more than a magazine. We're a multi-platform media company that is specifically designed to assist small business owners with gaining visibility and prominence in the community. One of the aspects of Getting the Edge is Getting the Edge with me, your host, Kelly Wilson. And we are here filming in Tampa Bay. We are at the Genghis Khan restaurant on Bay to Bay Boulevard. If you're in the Tampa Bay area, check it out. The Mediterranean Grill is exquisite. That's my word lately. I'm joined today with Paul Huszar of VetCor Services. So we're going to talk to Paul. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you,
for being
Great
here.
To be here.
But again, in regards to Edge, please check us out, edgebusinessmagazine.com. You can find out more information about us, or you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter as well. So I'm excited to talk to Paul. I've known Paul for years. And really the idea behind Getting the Edge is getting to know, we want to talk about your products and services, but we also want to talk about and get to know you and the person behind VetCor and who is Paul and what makes you tick. And that's really what Edge does is with Edge, it's not only business, it's personal. So anyway, we'll start. So you tell us your title and what you do.
Sure. I'm the president and CEO of VetCor. VetCor is a restoration company. We help solve water and mold damage challenges and provide other related services in commercial and residential properties. The thing that makes us different is we primarily do it by deploying former members of the U.S. military. We hire veterans. Our policy is we hire veterans and those who share the same values. We operate throughout 3 offices throughout South Florida, one here in Tampa that covers 6 counties surrounding Tampa Bay, an office that's run by a retired Marine gunnery sergeant in Fort Myers, and that covers 4 counties along the Gulf Coast. And then we have a retired first sergeant from the 82nd Airborne Division who runs our office in Davie, Florida, that covers Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties.
Very nice. So when did you have the other offices? Have you always had them, or have you been? I know you're growing. Yeah.
So we started the business. The business was founded on November 11th, Veterans Day of 2013. Okay. I was hired shortly thereafter as the first employee. My business partner now, David Howard, he was the founder and one of the co-owners. About 8 months into it, I had the opportunity to purchase the company and become the majority owner.
Very nice.
After that happened, David and I reinvested in the company, and we opened our second office, which was in the Gulf Coast. And then in December of 2015, we opened our third office in Davie, Florida.
And so you're a veteran then as well? And so how many years were you in the military?
23 years of active duty.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Thank you, and congratulations.
Well, I appreciate it. It was a young man's game, or else I'd still be doing it.
We'll talk a little bit more about your veteran's life as well, but you are a pitch master, and we kind of joked earlier because I've really been trying to work on my pitch, and I think in business we speak from passion, and passion is great and it gets you so far, but there are times where you really need to have a pitch, and I can see everybody probably can realize I'm still working on mine, but so tell us, you won Pitch 6, which was the Bright House Regional Business Awards. So I'm going to give you a minute because you are a master at it. so let's hear your pitch. I want to hear it.
All right. So VetCor is a restoration company. We help solve water, mold, damage challenges, and other related services in commercial and residential properties. But the thing that makes us different is we primarily deploy veterans, hence the word VetCor, of the U.S. military. Our policy is we hire veterans and those who share the same values. We're a preferred vendor for over 40 insurance carriers now. We're a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business. We were recognized as a Bright House Regional Business Award Pitch 6 winner in 2016. And in 2017, we were recognized as the Greater Tampa Chamber's Small Business of the Year. And then this year, we were just honored with the Patriots in Business Award and got to ring the opening bell on NASDAQ the day after Veterans Day.
I want to hear about that.
So man. It was awesome. And it's been a great ride. And the way ahead now is we're going to start franchising at the beginning of the next year and hopefully create more opportunities for veterans, because our mission, frankly, is to create meaningful and sustainable employment opportunities for our nation's heroes.
That's amazing. Congratulations on all
Thanks
of your
very much.
success thus far. You have so much more.
We're working on it.
Yeah,
a lot
that's
to go,
great.
but we're working on
Okay,
it.
so the opening bell. Well, how exciting is that? I saw on
amazing.
social media in New York, and then I wondered what you were doing, and then I see you on Wall Street. Like, what? Tell us about that experience.
So it was crazy. It was there was this competition called the Patriots in Business Award to recognize 4 businesses, small, medium, large, and enterprise categories, who do the most for veterans and their family members. We had just won the Greater Tampa Chamber Small Business of the Year. As a result of that, we were nominated for the National Small Business of the Year, so I was putting together that packet. And for any companies out there, I highly recommend doing it because it forces you to think about your marketing efforts, your compelling
Absolutely.
why, your reason for existence. And so I found out about this competition. I said, we should do it. And so I just kind of changed we to they, took the packet and submitted it for the Patriots in Business Award. Well, we won as a small business category. The other winners were NBC, Comcast, Universal, USAA, and a company owned by a Naval Academy graduate called Academy Securities. One of the perks of that was to ring the opening bell on the NASDAQ the day after Veterans Day.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and probably the best thing about it though, so the guy who actually rang the bell was the superintendent of West Point, my alma mater, and then he and another gentleman named Craig Newmark, you may know him, Craig from Craigslist.
Oh my goodness,
chaired
okay.
a panel at the NASDAQ market site on hiring veterans. And so that was probably the best thing about it, because then all these companies who are invested in veterans and their families got to talk about the things that make that effort successful and the reasons why. So it was
Wow.
great.
Yeah, and then you mentioned Craigslist and Craig from and it's just amazing because I have a flash of a flashback perhaps of him saying, "Hey, I have this idea. I'm going to start, an online ad kind of template." And I'm sure everybody told him he was crazy. It'll never work. And oh my goodness, look where that is, today.
Yeah, it was amazing.
So,
I had breakfast with him and just talked to him about that, and it's just, now look where he is, and it's one of those things, well, maybe one day.
wow. So how many days were you in New York?
So a couple. I flew up on the Sunday morning of Veterans Day, and then I got to ring the opening bell and met my business partner, David Howard, up there. So we both got to participate in that honor, and then had fun, saw a show off Wall Street or off of Broadway, and had some fun with him. And then flew back the next day, but it was just an incredible honor. I had to go up there for that.
That is, I don't know how many people actually get to experience that opportunity. That's amazing. So with that, going back to your veteran experience, so
Yep.
23 years?
Yep.
And so what was that? I'm sure we could talk for hours about that experience. What branch of the military were you in?
It's incredible. I was in the Army. I graduated from high school. I got accepted, and I got a nomination to West Point. So I went to West Point, studied civil engineering. I thought, I'll do that for 5 years. That's a commitment. And then I'll come back and run my dad's construction company in Akron, Ohio. That's what I thought was my plan. Well, I graduated and I deployed to Desert Storm right away. I went to an airborne engineer unit where we were dropping bulldozers and graders and scrapers out of airplanes and being a paratrooper. That was pretty fun. And I decided I like this Army stuff. And probably the coolest aspect of that is I later got to command that same battalion and to take them back to Iraq for Operation Iraqi Freedom as a battalion commander. The same battalion I was a lieutenant in. So, and in that course of 23 years, my last assignment, I was the dean of the Army's Engineer School at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Another great honor, and it really gave me a kind of a true understanding of what it takes to get people credentialed and have an understanding. So, it really nests well with what I'm doing now to create opportunities for veterans.
So what made you decide to get out?
I told myself I'd stay in the Army till I stopped having fun, and I actually never stopped having fun. But I did a short tour in Korea, which is a one-year unaccompanied tour in 2003, 2004. Came back to my next assignment at Fort Bragg and deployed to Iraq for 6 months. Was home for 18 months, deployed to Iraq for a year. Was home for 11 months, deployed to Iraq for another year. So a period of 4 out of 7 years, I was physically gone from my family. Kids were just starting high school. My son was a freshman in high school in Missouri, and I recognized if I stayed in the Army, I would have to move probably twice more, and both kids would have to be relocated. and
Right.
so it just wasn't worth it anymore.
Right.
And I felt like me
had to put
and
the
my
family first.
had sacrificed enough.
Right. Oh my goodness. So how old are your children now?
So my son is 20, my daughter's 18.
Oh my goodness.
We just shipped her off. She's a freshman at George Washington University, and my son is a junior at Florida State.
Time goes so fast. I remember us talking, I guess, quite a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember talking about your children being much younger.
Yep.
So it's just amazing how fast time goes. But wow. And I know mine are like, my youngest just graduated, my oldest is 28 now. It's just time goes so fast. I think that's another thing as entrepreneurs and business owners is time goes so fast. And if you have an idea and you want to get out and do something, do it. Because before you know it, time just continues to go and the time's going to pass anyway. So if you have a dream and you have something that you set out to do, I think we're all are proof that it works and that you can do anything that you set your mind to. So, well, on that note, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back with Getting the Edge and Paul Huszar. Don't go away.
Hi, I'm Jerry from Hot Locks Hair Salon. We are conveniently located at 13414 US Highway 19 in Hudson. I've been a local hairstylist in our community for the last 34 years, 7 of which I was an educator. Our passion is the artistry of hair, and Hot Locks is here to help you achieve your perfect image. You can call us at 727-514-9978.
Hi, good afternoon. Welcome back to Getting the Edge with your host, me, Kelly Wilson. Thank you so much for joining us. We're here with the amazing Paul Huszar with VetCor Services. Thank you again so much for being with us. And just to recap with Edge, we have a brand new magazine coming out. We'll launch right about December 10th. Really excited about that. I always say this backwards, the same great features that everybody loves about Edge with all new content. I say that like same content, new features. No, anyway, vice versa. But really looking forward to that, and a great feature story, which we always include, and then great contributing writers that all have extreme passion about their expertise. So definitely keep a lookout for that, and we'll talk more about that later. But right now we're going to talk to Paul. So, wow, we've heard your pitch. We heard that he just talked about his having the opportunity to ring the opening bell. That is amazing. If you missed any part of the beginning of the show, make sure you go back and watch it, and especially to hear his pitch. He won Pitch 6 of the Bright House Regional Business Awards. You really are good, really smooth when you talk, and passionate, you can tell. And I think that that piece of that genuine, I think, is what really makes a pitch. Pitch sounds so commercialized when you say that, but it, really, you can tell that you have a lot of passion. And VetCor is, you have a lot of passion, I think, with that. And I think you've been very fortunate to kind of have these opportunities that ring so close to you. So you were mentioning that you started working, you were the first employee, and then you had the opportunity 8 months in to purchase the company. So tell us about that experience and that transition from being an employee to then now being a business owner.
Sure. So, when I transitioned out of the military in July 2013, we moved here, and for all the reasons for quality of life, because who doesn't want to live in Tampa? It's a great place to live, and we were close to family and et cetera.
And where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Ohio.
Oh, okay.
Born and raised,
and a fellow Midwesterner.
Yes. So
I'm Indianapolis.
Far different. I prefer it here, though, now.
Absolutely. Especially when they're, in fact, I must say it's Tampa Bay, and it's November 27th now.
It was 51 this morning.
Yeah, it was cold, but I had the windows open. It was so nice. But sorry for all those freezing in the north, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
so,
from Ohio.
So we moved here, and transitioning out of the military, I thought, I'll find a job. I'm a licensed professional engineer. I have a bachelor's and master's in civil engineering. I've been doing construction engineering all my life. Well, I got here, and I recognized that people really didn't understand who I was and who's this guy, 45 years old, retired out of the military, commanded a 1,000 soldier and airman battalion, and what are his capabilities? They didn't understand me. And so I had a hard time finding a job initially. And then I thought about it, and I said, well, gosh, if they don't understand who I am and I'm having trouble with my resume, what about the youngsters that are transitioning from the military after perhaps 3 to 5 years on active duty, have had this immense responsibility compared to their peers, and now get out and can't find a job? And at the time, veteran unemployment was skyrocketing. It was a couple percentage points higher than the national average. Now it's a little lower, but particularly amongst recently transitioned veterans, it's still higher than it should be.
I can imagine that transition is very difficult, especially if you've been in
culture,
20, 30 plus years.
Yep. And so when I made that transition, I had a couple opportunities that I passed at because I could afford to be a little patient because I was getting my military retirement, et cetera. But then I had this opportunity with David Howard. So David was an Army officer for 5 years, spent 25 in the insurance industry, and then was running this forensics engineering company that primarily catered to the insurance industry. So David calls me in for an interview. He gets my resume through this odd series of networking events. That's the way it always is, right? It's always something crazy you're not expecting.
That's how the universe works, though. I really do believe that.
Rather serendipitous. And so I go in to interview with him. I think I'm interviewing for an engineering management position. Perhaps I was with this engineering company. And he starts asking me about organizational leadership and telling me about his concept with VetCor to vertically integrate other service offerings to insurance carriers. And I said, wow, okay, I get this. And he was a Midwesterner also. We had a lot in common. And a week later he says, hey, I want you to be the president of VetCor and start this company. Water damage mitigation. It turns out 60% of homeowners' claims are water related. Who knew?
60%.
60%. You think about it, dishwashers, ice makers, hot water heaters, all those kinds of things break relatively predictably. And when they do, they need someone to come out and fix it and restore sanity. And who better than a veteran to show up fit, polite, on time, treat people with dignity and respect, and think about when's the last time you had a service call of any kind. In Florida, I like to use, air conditioning repairmen because we have that a lot.
Mine is currently out right now.
Okay.
I'm hoping to hear from the AC people today.
Cable guy, right? And when do they tell you when they're going to show up?
Right.
Like a 4-hour window.
Yeah,
and
I'm
then
still
they
waiting.
show up, 30 minutes late and don't call, right? We're just not wired that way.
Right.
Because on time is late and early is on time for a veteran, amongst
Right.
many other values that we have. And so
It's true.
it's just amazing when I found this opportunity in the service industry to hire veterans. And it was David's idea that fit really right into what I was doing when I was my last job on active duty as the dean, trying to get soldiers credentialed and prepare them for their transition.
So
out
had
of
you
the
just
military.
transitioned out?
I had just transitioned.
Oh, wow.
This is my first job, civilian job ever, really.
So the VetCor was just being born at that time.
It was an idea. It was launched on Veterans Day, with articles of incorporation and everything. I interviewed about a week later with David Howard, who was kind of the founder, and then he hired me on December 9th. I hired my first employee, Scott Walden, who's a retired Army Sergeant Major. If you ever want to start anything from scratch, hire a retired Army Sergeant Major as your battle buddy.
That's good advice.
He's fantastic. He's been with me ever since. He's now our Chief Operating Officer. And then we set off to do the manning, training, equipping, develop the policies, establish relationships, business development, et cetera. Yeah.
Wow. It's not, in your experience, have you found it difficult? I guess maybe not when you're dealing with certain personalities that are military related, because you kind of know their jobs
Yeah.
and where they fit there. But have you found it difficult to place people in the right positions that might, take off with those those opportunities or
Yeah.
titles that you give them?
So I have not, because I think in general, the military sees talent much differently than the civilian world. When I was a battalion commander, if my maintenance officer left the military, left the advanced course, and he left my unit, I had to replace him with another maintenance officer. I didn't really look to see on somebody's resume or their officer record brief who had experience as a maintenance officer, because I knew they could learn that piece
Right.
of it. What I needed to know is who could gel best with perhaps the non-commissioned officer, what kind of personality they need. Who would they be supervised by, the executive officer or the operations officer? What kind of personality will work best with them? Are they a kind of fire and forget kind of guy that can operate independently, or are they a gal that needs really intricate instructions or details, et cetera? And then you could always trust, because you had this great talent pool of young officers and non-commissioned officers who were just lifelong learners, very dedicated, very energetic, ready to learn. They could learn those skill sets. And that's different than the civilian world that I found, and that's one of the challenges that military folks have, because they don't have the things on the resume that people are
Right.
necessarily looking for. There's all kinds of challenges with credentialing and with translation of those skills as well. But I think really fundamentally we see talent much differently.
Is there an average on how long people stay in the military?
20. The great thing is 20 years, and you
Right.
can be retired and
Right.
have 50%.
4 years
pension.
is typically minimum, right?
Yeah, typically the initial enlistment is anywhere between 3 and 5 years, and the vast majority of people get out after that because it's an up or out.
Right.
It's,
You're either in or out,
yeah,
right?
and you get promoted and you get advanced, or you don't. And if you don't, then you get out, or you decide to get out. So, yeah.
Interesting. Or some stay 23
Yep.
plus years.
Yep.
But no, I can definitely see where it takes a toll. So growing up, I had my son very young, and at that point we decided, or thought what we were going to do. And he said, well, I'll go into the military, and we'll do that. And I'm very proud of him 28 years later. But when he went into the military, initially he started in the Air Force. But 28 years later, and I don't know, stripes, and I don't know what it all
understand.
means, but I know he's done very well, and he's just about to retire. But he's married, and he has 2 great children, but he's never lived in the same country as
Right.
his son, and that is real. I know has taken a toll on him personally. And although he's done great in his military career, it's hard. So
It is.
he's finally he just received his last. Destination,
Yeah,
and he's
okay.
coming to Tampa the first time, and he'll be able to
Fantastic.
retire here in Tampa. And my son is thrilled, and he has 2 children, so I have two grandchildren, so he finally gets to have that time, even though his son's going to be close to 30 by the
Yeah.
time he retires. But what an example he's been for his son as well, and
I'd love to connect with him, and I have a standing offer. I'll help any veteran in transition, because we all transition sooner or later. Even if you're a 4-star general, you transition from the military. And it's just a significantly different culture. And so, VetCor is a restoration company. We're a for-profit business. It helps people, and we sustain kind of a legacy of service, and that's great. But what really lights my fire is creating the opportunities for veterans. And so we've built this reputation based on veterans and service, And so what we try and do is use that to further the veteran brand and also to help other veterans, whether it's in the company, on our team or not, and connecting them with people in the community.
MacDill Air Force Base being so close, I have talked with a few people about trying to get a connection with, just to maybe give, connect them with the mentors in the community or someone to talk to. Many of them, I would think, are innovative and have ideas that perhaps they've suppressed, and they would love to talk to the right person that could trigger that passion and really tell them, and help guide them. So perhaps that's something we can do in the future.
Tremendous opportunity. MacDill is one of the few bases in the world that has 2 4-star level commands on it. So what that means is you have senior leaders, very talented people there. And so I talk to them all the time. They want to stay in Tampa because it's a great place. Huge talent pool that I think oftentimes gets overlooked.
Wow. I was just going to ask something. So is it all veterans that work with the company? Do you have any non-veterans?
So it's actually illegal to only hire veterans.
Okay.
Because it unfairly discriminates against women, believe it or not, because women are unfairly represented in the veteran pool.
Okay.
So our policy is we hire veterans and those who share the same values.
Okay, that works.
Yep. And that's the people we're looking for, that same value, that same standard.
Now, can anyone call and work with VetCor? Could it only be the insurance companies?
Anybody can call 1-844-VetCor1. That's our call center number. But we primarily, because of our business model, do business-to-business marketing with insurance carriers, because most people, when they have a problem, they call their insurance company, they report it, and then the insurance company says, would you like someone who's already pre-vetted, pre-qualified, we've checked their credentials, we've checked their insurance, we know these are good guys. And most of the time, it's the first time that it's ever happened in their life, and so they trust their carrier to give them a recommendation. So
do you then build relationships with insurance carriers?
Yep.
Do they have to recommend multiple carriers, or?
It's all in our business. It's always the consumer's right to choose. So they can select one of the preferred vendors or not. And usually the insurance carrier will say, here are 3 vendors, that we've vetted, pick one of them.
Oh, but this one only hires veterans. And
I'd like to think it's a distinct advantage.
Absolutely.
Because particularly when it's a time when people are in chaos, they typically trust veterans.
And
they should.
They know you're dependable. All right, we'll take a break. We're going to come right back with Paul Huszar, so don't go away. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Jerry from Huszar Hair Salon. We are conveniently located at 13414 US Highway 19 in Hudson. I've been a local hairstylist in our community for the last 34 years, 7 of which I was an educator. Our passion is the artistry of hair, and Hollocks is here to help you achieve your perfect image. You can call us at 727-514-9978.
Welcome back to Getting the Edge with Kelly Wilson, me, your host. I kind of like saying that, although it sounds kind of silly. Thank you so much for joining us and being with us today. We are with the amazing Paul Huszar, who is, what is your title? It's President and
CEO of VetCor.
President and CEO of VetCor. So, wow, just great conversation, great story. I think you just seem so genuine and just really easy to talk with. And so, appreciate you being here with us today. And again, if you missed any part of the beginning of the show, make sure you watch the whole from the beginning and just hear about you were just recently at ringing the bell down at Wall Street in New York, and just what a great experience that was. So again, congratulations on all of that, and being around in New York, and just the vibe, I'm sure is great too.
High energy, appreciate it.
But we're here in Tampa Bay, where it is, I think, 65 degrees today, so I think we'll take it. Wow, it's cold up north. And all the canceled flights, at least they all did get through Thanksgiving, luckily. But anyway, so we talked a little bit about, you were in the military for 23 years. So how long have you been with VetCor now?
So 5 years with VetCor.
5 years.
Yep.
Okay. And we taught you grew up. You're from Ohio. So did you go to college, or you went straight into the military, or what?
So I'm born and raised in Akron, Ohio, but then I got an appointment to West Point, and many people don't know what that is. The Army Navy Games coming up, December 8th. Go Army, beat Navy.
Not many people go to West Point, do they?
It is one of the most difficult schools to get into. So West Point, the United States Military Academy, and Annapolis, the United States Naval Academy, are the nation's service academy. There's also Air Force Academy, Coast Guard Academy, but it's a 4-year college university like anything else, except everybody that goes there is on a full ride scholarship and gets paid to go there. They have to get nominated by a congressman or a senator, or the vice president, or there's a few others, like for Medal of Honor winner, Children Medal Honor winners.
Wow.
They have to get accepted by the university, the military academy, and then they have to pass the physical aspect of it.
Not many people can say they went to West Point.
No, it's a
I don't even think I've met anyone that has gone to West Point. Wow.
It's interesting, though. There are a few around here, and there are several fellow CEOs of businesses around here.
Really?
And it's amazing because you don't necessarily think of West Point as a business school, because it's really not. Everybody has to get commissioned and go into the military.
Right.
But what it does is it really equips you to lead and be a problem solver for the rest of your life.
Well, and as a business owner, that is exactly what you are, a leader and a problem solver. Wow, I had no idea. That's amazing. So, okay, originally from Akron, did you grow up with a large family?
So a brother and a sister, but they were 10 and 15 years older than me. So it was almost like I was an only child. I had older parents. So they had a little bit more patience with me, I think, a little bit more resources, and so I had a much different upbringing. Yeah.
I had the same experience. I had a sister 10 years older, and my brother was 12 or 13, so they didn't like me very much.
No, same here.
I was always in the way. Now, what business were your parents in? Did they have their own businesses?
So my dad owned his own general contracting company that was founded by his father, who was an immigrant, and that's what I thought I would do. I spent my summers.
I'm sure that's what they hoped that you would do as well.
Yeah, I think so. My brother ended up taking it over, but I spent my summers, in high school, working as a general laborer on construction jobs. I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was physically demanding work, and I liked it. And I thought, I don't want to get it handed to me though. And so I thought, well, gosh, if I went to West Point and then studied civil engineering. One, it would better equip me for that, and then nobody could say that I had something handed to me when I came back.
Absolutely not, right.
But then things changed a little bit, and I stayed in the Army and had a little bit more fun.
Well, that's great too. Great experiences, and I think all that, like when we look back, they're pieces of our puzzle, our life, that really come together and shape us into who
Sure.
we ultimately become. But they're all needed, I think, and purposeful, if that's the right word. And I was going to ask if you were encouraged to dream as a child, but I assume if your father had his own business, you know, that would be a yes.
Well, yeah, of course. I dreamt. I thought I'd be a professional soccer player, baseball player, or something like that. Unfortunately, I wasn't blessed with those genes. Wasn't bad, but wasn't blessed with those genes. But yeah, actually, and it's one of the things I like to say, because I was a big team sports guy growing up, played all kinds of sports. And then when I went to West Point, I was actually recruited to play sports there. But I like to tell people that the military is the #1 team sport in the world, because
I can imagine.
It's a huge team, collective tasks, collective missions, and that same kind of vibe. Yeah.
It really doesn't. That's their whole mentality is everyone working as one.
Which is huge, because it's different. And it's one of the things that leads to people not understanding military when they transition, right? Because they spent their whole, for me, 23 years plus 4 years at West Point. But even if it's just 5 years for the typical recruit, right? They went to high school, enlisted, and spent 5 years in the military. Those 5 years were all of the 5 years of their adult life that they know.
Right.
And they were grown up with the cultures, norms, and values of the U.S. military. So now you come out and you have to interview for a job, right? And what do you do when you interview for a job? You got to talk about yourself. You got to tell somebody hey, Kelly, I'm Paul. This is how great I am, and I'd want you to hire me on your team. Well, how comfortable do you think I'm doing that after I spent 27 years in the military?
Right.
Or somebody who spent 5 years, but it was all 5 years of their adult life.
Right.
They're just not comfortable, and that creates part of the challenge with veterans in transition.
Yeah, I think that could be a problem for other people, even outside the military, when you're very humble and you're more other people oriented, really wanting to help and give back. It's really hard to talk about how great you are. You know, it's
true.
I've struggled with that. I mean, it's, you know.
You think about it, I mean, really, what's a resume, right? Maybe one-page piece of paper front and back where you're going to tell me how great you are, so I'll hire you.
And then your cover letter that you add to it is just re-emphasizing.
Right, and then you get a chance to talk, and it's 15 minutes, 30 minutes of
why me?
I'm so great, and you should hire me on your team.
Right, yeah, I see that.
But we want, team players, and we want selfless servants on our team, but the whole system is kind of not designed that way.
Right. Wow, that's interesting. And we talked a little bit about, one of the questions I always ask is, did you always know you wanted to own your own business? Was that ever something that you thought of?
No. I mean, I thought maybe, the construction business taken over from my dad. Then I thought really when I transitioned that I would be an engineer or in construction, because that's kind of what I did in the military. But this opportunity really kind of stemmed from creating opportunities for veterans. And, like I said, it was
something you're
David's
very passionate
idea,
about.
But that's the thing I'm passionate about. Yep.
Did you ever have to raise capital? Did you raise capital at all for the business?
No, actually, because we were able to, my business partner and I were able to fund it initially. And then we've had a lot of success. And we walked into some equity when we bought our house here, so I took a home equity line of credit out. I had a pretty good credit rating. I used to back then. And I used a lot of personal credit to get here.
Right.
Now the credit rating is pretty crappy, but I'm sitting on
I love our honesty here.
No, it's true, right? As a small business owner,
it's
you
hard.
can't get business credit. You have to use your personal credit.
Right.
But now, here I am. I have built this company, and now I can start kind of paying myself back and rebuilding my personal credit.
I have had the extreme pleasure of interviewing so many great people over almost 5 years now, and that's really why I want to provide these platforms, is because it's not fair for me to just learn, which I learn from everyone that I talk to. I want to share that, and everyone says nobody would give me money in the beginning. No. Nobody wants to give me money, and then when you start to really kind of have some success and do well, now everybody's trying to give you money.
That's right.
It's really backwards, It's kind of funny. Well, and it just goes back. I was talking to somebody, I think it was my daughter. Somebody we were talking about. I was trying to tell her about credit, and we were just talking about why the importance of credit. And I don't know how it came up, but I said something about. When you have really good credit, you pay less for things. And when you have bad credit, you pay even more for things. And she was like, well, what sense does that make? I'm like, well, that's just how things work. So it's just really funny that.
I just met with a banker this morning because we're going to start franchising VetCor. And I could probably do it on my own now with a little bit more risk than I'd prefer to take.
Right.
But it's now we've had 2 profitable years, 2 hurricanes. We took advantage of those things. And so we don't need the money. So that's now when I'm asking for it. And it's a huge lesson learned. And if you're a business owner out there, that's what you do. So on the good times, you try and build it up,
right,
so you can kind of ride through the challenging times.
Well, and over so many years, you have at least your past, of history,
right,
that you can, in the analytics from previous years, that you can look
for all the
at.
underwriting
Right.
criteria.
And then you can look too on when are my good months and when are my bad months, and when do I need to make sure that you hold back. And it's all trial and error, right? I mean, it's
Yes.
it's all a learning experience and trying to we're all figuring it out as we go. And I'm always like the first to say I don't know all the answers, but I guess other people are starting to admit that too. But
it's one of the things I think, when I get to advocate for veterans and talk to other business owners and trade associations about the importance of hiring veterans, it's one of the things that I emphasize. I don't think it emphasizes enough. So veterans typically change jobs every 3 to 4 years and change physical locations because they're moving
right,
around. That's what the military does, right? Well, they're not these old dogs that can't learn new tricks. So they're used to,
they transition,
for example,
very well.
after action reviews, an AAR. What's an AAR? Determining what happened, why it happened, and how you can improve. So they're always learning, and that's what the military does because they're technologically savvy. They've got to stay up with what the enemy does. The enemy gets a vote in combat, and so you're always asking yourself, what happened, why did it happen, how we can improve. And when you're part of a culture and an organization that does that, that's powerful, right? And they bring that to your organization when you hire them and they come on the team. That's powerful.
One of my favorite quotes is by Charles Darwin, and I always mess these up, but it's something about, I know who says it, something about those that succeed are not necessarily the richest or the most educated. They're the ones that succeed are the most adaptable to change. And I kind of like that, and that's kind of really what somebody in the military, they're used to being able to change and transition and adapt very, very quickly. Oh, I think that was part of it, adaptable to change. Anyway, all right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Paul Huszar. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, I'm Jerry from Hoszar Hair Salon. We are conveniently located at 13414 US Highway 19 in Hudson. I've been a local hairstylist in our community for the last 34 years, 7 of which I was an educator. Our passion is the artistry of hair, and Hoszar is here to help you achieve your perfect image. You can call us at 727-514-9978.
Welcome back to Getting the Edge with your host, me, Kelly Wilson. Thank you so much for being with us today. We are with the amazing, I've said amazing, this is like the 4th time, maybe 3rd. I'm like, you got a big head yet?
Kelly.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Paul Huszar, President and
CEO.
Why do I can't think of it? Remember that. Okay. VetCor Services. So thank you so much for being here. Is it actually VetCor or VetCor Services?
VetCor LLC. Yep.
Okay.
And
VetCor.
we're getting ready to create a franchising company. It'll be VetCor Franchising LLC.
That's exciting.
Yeah,
very exciting times. So Paul has a great story, and we've talked a lot about that. And how, just so we can recap, how do people get in touch with you if they have any water mitigation needs or to connect?
I always say it's better to know us and not need us than need us and not know us. So 1-844-VetCor1 gets to our call center for our emergency dispatches. But also typically we're a preferred vendor for over 40 insurance carriers in Florida. So chances are if you're out there and you need help and you report your claim into your insurance carrier, you can ask them if we're a preferred vendor, and it's likely that we are, and they'll connect you as well.
And if not, I'm sure they can perhaps initiate you becoming a preferred vendor.
That's right. And it's always the insured customer's right to choose no matter what. So if they're not a preferred vendor and we come out and we do a good job for you, tell your company about them, and maybe we can expand our business more and create more opportunities for vets.
Hopefully everyone has insurance, but just in case you don't, I mean, you can can
call us
still
anytime.
reach out.
Yep.
Well, we've talked a little bit about your wide, vast of knowledge and different careers and graduating from West Point. That's amazing. That's congratulating. I mean, that's just congratulations. And then your time, 23 years in the military, and then now 5 years with VetCor. So tell us a little bit. We talked in that with all this transition and kind of we talked a little bit earlier about all of those pieces of a puzzle kind of coming together. What has surprised you most about the difference in kind of being the business owner and your military experience?
There's all kinds of things, because the cultures, norms, and values are just different. They are. I'm not trying to make a statement right, wrong, better, worse. They're just different. And so some of the things I've found is, and frankly, why I think veterans have challenges with this is the sense of integrity and honesty isn't the same in the business community.
It's a cutthroat world. It really is.
And that's a challenge. And I make this analogy. So when I was commanding a battalion in the Army, right, the selection rate to battalion command at the time was something like 12%. Right? So the Army had it right. And so if I had a problem with another unit, I could pick up the phone, call a fellow battalion commander or command sergeant major, and we could resolve that, because we were talking leader to leader. You knew you were talking to a true peer who really cared about their own unit, but also cared about the greater good of the Army.
Everyone looked out for one another. Right.
Yep. And they always wanted to do the right thing and had the same level of integrity. Now, if I have that same challenge with another business or an insurance company or a third-party administrator, and I can't necessarily expect to have the kind of same level of integrity and follow-up, and that's unfortunate. I go into it with the assumption that I will, but then I've been proven wrong a few times, and that's unfortunate. But it is what it is, and so that's just, you have to look out for that in the business climate.
What greatest challenges that you've experienced?
Yeah, I mean, everybody always says, you need at least twice the amount of capital that you think you do.
Actually, I saw somewhere that you had said that.
Yeah, it's true.
It's great.
It's true, and I'm an intricate planner and a risk manager, because that's what you learn in the military. It's all about risk management, the probability of risk, the severity of risk, and so even with all of that, I was still well out over my skis for a while, because just things happen, Murphy's laws of war, whatever can go wrong will go wrong. The same thing is true in business. So I found that kind of the two hardest things about business were getting the business the business development, how do you get the clients, and then financing the business, the cash flow aspects of it, the financing, for the expansion, things
Right.
like that, planning for cash flow, ebbs and flows.
Well, I was going to ask advice to those starting out.
You need more money than you think you do, and you may have this great idea, product or service, whatever it is. You still have to be able to advertise it and get people to want it. It's not the if you build it they will come kind
Right.
of thing. And we've been fortunate because in our case, my business partner David Howard, who was initially the CEO of the company, he had all these relationships in the insurance industry. And so through those relationships, he was able to connect me as the president in business and ultimately now the owner and CEO with those people, those decision makers. Well, I'm probably present a little bit different profile than the typical restoration contractor,
Right.
business owner, right? Because of my military background, my experience, I'm a licensed professional engineer. And if you haven't been able to tell, I'm extroverted to the extreme. And so
Really?
it makes it easy.
I wouldn't have known that.
It makes it easy for me to kind of tell the story, particularly when it's a story I'm passionate about veterans.
Well, like I said, we talked about pitches earlier, and you have one, and it's great, but it's also genuine, and you can
When
you
you're
can tell.
passionate about it,
Right.
it's easy to be genuine.
It works. Best advice you've ever been given?
So my dad told me before I went to West Point, don't ever make a decision at your highest or your lowest moment.
Yeah, great advice.
It was great advice then because I had probably more low moments than I had high. And it's pretty good advice today because you'll tend to overreact. And I've learned that over patience too in
Right.
time and kind of tactical decision making as a leader in the military. You make better objective decisions when you kind of discount the emotions.
So toughest lesson learned, or kind of what has taken you the longest to learn? Kind of typically the
Yeah,
same.
there's a ton of those. I mean, the cash flow lessons have been a huge challenge because in the military, manning, training, equipping, the extent of the responsibilities I had of commanding, controlling a battalion
Right.
throughout northern Western, immense.
I can only imagine.
And what I do now dwarfs in comparison to what I used to do then. But understanding kind of the ebbs and flows of cash flow, right? So as an example, the last 2 years, we've had 2 hurricanes that have significantly impacted the state. Well, we kind of rose to the challenge, and but what happens in those cases is if a business is succeeding and succeeding wildly, a business can run out of cash and over succeed, right?
Right, yeah.
So when we have the hurricanes, we have a lot of overtime, we have to buy a lot more temporary roof tarps, all those kinds of things. Well, when that happens, you have to front the money, but then you don't get paid for 30, 45, 60 days later. And so as your growth curve continues to accelerate, your cash flow doesn't keep up because it lags from 30
Right.
to 60 days. And so if you don't capture that, you don't have a way to mitigate that, you can over succeed
Right.
and kind of run out of money.
Right, and I can imagine in your business where you are working with insurance companies, you're not necessarily working with residential homeowners as often, so you're waiting even longer for payments to come in.
Nobody has the capacity because you can't staff to the capacity to prepare for a hurricane,
Right, right, yeah.
Contractors can't, insurance companies can't, et cetera. So when you look at the volume of claims that stack up after a major event like a hurricane, right? It makes a huge difference if you get in the front of the line or you get in the back of the line
Right.
for payment. And so
Wow.
that's an example of an after-action review, Kelly. We did our own after-action review after Hurricane Irma, and then we changed a lot of SOPs
Right.
and things that we do, standard operating procedures. So for Hurricane Michael, when that came, we got in the front of the line. We changed our processes, so we got in the front of the line, and now we're receiving the dividends for that.
If you could go back 20, 30 years and give your younger self advice, what would that advice be?
Well, frankly, there's not a lot that I would change because my son goes to Florida State now, and it's a great opportunity for him. But I look at him, and he's very extroverted like me, and he's having a lot of fun, and I would have had a lot of fun if I went to Ohio State
Right.
back then or Florida State. But the biggest difference was I made one decision to get on the conveyor belt at West Point, and those next 4 years were about my education, my personal professional development. and I got off the conveyor belt because I had it was really hard to get off, right? Because it was very structured. And so I would have jumped off if I probably could have. It was easier to jump off because I would have had a lot more fun.
Right.
But instead I stayed on, I paid my dues, then I went in the military. And so all of those things contributed to my personal professional development. And I wouldn't change those things in a minute. And now here I am, I just turned 50. I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm enjoying life, have business success because it's all about the foundation that I established for myself, when I graduated from high school and started on that path.
What is your definition of success?
I think, well, first of all, success is whatever one determines, right?
Absolutely, and it's different for everybody. And I've asked this, I'll ask someone today, and then perhaps a year later, and it's different. So that's why I always ask everyone.
In the military, if success was defined as becoming a battalion commander, well, that's somebody else defining it for you, right? For me, it was, and that was a great opportunity. But I guess ultimately, it's doing what you want to do because you want to do it, you enjoy doing it, and if there's a way that you can get compensated for it and make a fair living that allows you balance in your life and fulfillment in all areas of your life, that for me is success. And I found that right now with VetCor.
Absolutely.
On a mission to help veterans, and I still get to have fun and do all the things.
No, and it fits into your life, I would think, just greatly. I always ask too, as far as exit strategy. I know you're only 5 years into this, and that's probably not even something in your thoughts right now. But
this is my baby, and the reality is I have to have some type. And I just started thinking about that as we get into franchising, and I bring in some partners in. So. There's, as I look down, I still have a lot to accomplish with VetCor. One of our strategic visions is we'd love to be the primary private employer of veterans throughout the United States and become the brand known for timely, quality, reliable service. So that's kind of short to mid to longer term, but I don't have an exit strategy until we do that. Once we do that, then maybe some other form of service in helping veterans.
Well, like I said, I feel like
you have some time to figure that out.
Yes, you do, and it's just amazing. Again, I'm looking and hearing about you and your experiences. It's just everything has led you to right where you are today, and I think it's prepared you for this moment. I think 5 years in, you still have this.
It's true.
So much.
I couldn't have predicted it, but I wouldn't change it.
Yeah, we never can, but it's amazing. So thank you so much for being with us today. I appreciate it. It's been great learning about you and getting to know you a little bit better. And we've heard about VetCor quite a bit, but it's great to really get to know Paul Huszar.
It's been a true pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Kelly.
Thank you for being here. And again, your contact information, one more time for us.
1-844-VetCor1. Better to know us than not better to know us, not need us than need us and not know us.
I think I'm going to say that throughout the rest of the afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us today, and make sure you check in with us weekly for the weekly Getting the Edge. Look out for our new magazine coming soon, and edgebusinessmagazine.com. Hope you have a great day. Never stop dreaming. Thanks.